Hi there, it's Tristan Finch here at TPF Recruitment. I hope you're well. This is a follow-up video to a video that I did surrounding interview preparation. And this particular video that I've put together today focuses more so on hints and tips surrounding the actual interview itself. So things such as body language, the format, talking versus listening, all the sort of subtle things that sometimes we're unaware of that may hinder or potentially improve our interview experience. So I guess the first note really to kind of consider is the first impressions ultimately. I think for a lot of candidates, they're actually unaware when the first impressions start. So a lot of people think, well, it's of course it's when I go straight into my interview, but actually the reality is that first impressions start from that first piece of dialogue that you have with the business. So whether that be an application, whether that be an email, a telephone call, whether it's liaising with a secretary, whether it's the first person you met when you walked through the door, literally any form of communication will essentially be fed back to the hiring manager. So what I would say is just be really, really conscious of that, and anybody that you interact with, just bear in mind that there's a significant chance that that individual or that email or any piece of correspondence could be passed back to the hiring manager. So just make sure from point one you get that right. Of course, then going into the interview, that's when the first impression with the interviewer or the hiring manager may start. So if it's a face-to-face interview, then I guess a solid, strong, confident handshake is typically the best suggestion in order to build rapport with the interviewer. Good eye contact is always invaluable. For a video meeting, you may suggest perhaps just a really strong kind of open pleasantry. I think by showing confidence and steering away from that kind of rabbit in the headlights, not sure why I'm here, awkward image is probably the thing that you want to steer away from. So I think a nice, warm, strong and confident pleasantry will probably set you in best stead. So once the interview's taken place, going ahead, a few subtle things, and these, what I would say is don't fret about these too much, but just make sure that you just have a little think about them beforehand, because actually sometimes you're unaware of habits and just general bits and bobs that you may do in an interview, which may either through preparation or through practice interviews may come alight. So body posture, body language. So what you don't want to be doing is leaning really far forward, because actually it could feel that you're invading somebody's space. You don't want to, on the other hand, be leaning back, slouched, and look like you're almost a little bit too casual. So I think a nice kind of sit up straight, but with relaxed shoulders, so that you're not sitting there kind of really tight and nervous. I think if you can, when engaging in conversation and when putting points across or discussion topics, with a slight lean forward, shows your engagement to the individual that you're participating in conversation with. And try and keep your hands calm. There's nothing more off-putting when you're interviewing a candidate and their hands are flying all over the place. So just try and get that balance of gently placing your hands on the table or on your lap, wherever you feel most comfortable. But by all means, use them to express yourself, particularly if you're trying to show passion. But just don't overdo it, if that makes sense, because sometimes it can just give the wrong sign. I would also say common traits that quite a lot of nervous people do subconsciously: biting their nails, rubbing their legs, touching their face, scratching their hair. I mean, I've seen many, many different scenarios and taken lots of feedback from lots and lots of different clients. So just try and bear those in mind, and just try and refrain yourself from just doing any of those. Just try and keep your hands relatively calm. Bring yourself forward when you're trying to engage, and just try and give a not too formal but not too casual posture. And the final point to note is your facial expressions. So it's really, really important to make sure that you give the right impression via your facial expressions. So don't frown, but don't go over the top and be extremely, extremely excited, because that can also be kind of off-putting. So just make sure that you maintain a positive look throughout the process. Kind of when engaging in conversation, a nod, a raise of the eyebrow, using the word, kind of just saying yeah, gives that, I guess, gives the interviewer a bit of confidence that you're acknowledging and also understanding what they're saying. And that leads me on to my next point. So talking versus listening. So as an interviewer, most people are trained to expect the candidate being interviewed to talk for about 70% of the conversation, and the final 30% is normally from the interviewer asking questions and giving information away. So actually what you can see from that is that you're going to be doing the largest proportion of talking, but what you don't want to do is kind of disvalue and miss the opportunity to listen, because actually it's the listening which is absolutely crucial to the answers and the responses that you give to their questions. So the interviewer throughout the interview process will be giving you loads and loads of information, loads of loopholes around what they're looking for, around their culture, their working environment, their personalities, the position itself. And what you need to be doing throughout that whole process is listening, digesting the information, and then towards the back end of the interview, when they do ask you questions, it's a really good opportunity to cross each of those points off. So as an example, they may say, well, look, we're looking for somebody with a really significant, a really strong initiative, somebody who doesn't need to be handheld and can just crack on and get the job done. So when they then come 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, towards the back end of the interview, they start asking you questions around what are you like as a person. That's where you then go, well, actually, I'm a motivated, highly driven, out of the box thinker, and you cover that point that they raised earlier on. Do your best not to ramble. Nerves typically get the better of us, so just whatever you do, don't go over and over and over the top. With your responses, make them short and concise. They'll ask you a question, and the majority of people will just ramble on, miss the question, talk about something else, and then the interviewer will be sitting there thinking, I've asked you the question, you've spoken about something else, but you haven't answered what I've asked you specifically. So just make sure that you've got really clear-cut, solid answers to the questions that they'll be asking, and also make sure that with the answers you give, you back them up with some evidence, so some factual points. For example, are you a team player? Yes, I'm a team player. Examples of me being a team player are I play for a local football team, I play for a local netball team, I get involved in charity events. Obviously there's loads and loads of different examples, and I can talk through loads of examples with you, but just really back up any answers with a bit of evidence. And then finally, there'll be loads of different types of questions. So there'll be just generic interview questions. So how did you hear about this job? What do you know about us as a business? What are your aspirations? Why are you currently leaving your current position? And then on the flip side of that, you may get some competency-based questions, and these are more scenario-based. So I've got a load of examples on our website that you can have a look at, and again, by all means, just call me and we can talk them through. But it may be, tell me a time where you led a team to achieve a goal. What is your style when approaching problems at work? How do you motivate people around you? Or how do you motivate your team members? So just have a little think. Typically, most interviews will, or interviewers will give you a heads up as to what type of interview process they'll follow. And if you're a bit unsure, by all means, again, just give me a call and I can make sure that you're fully prepared. As I say, there's loads of information on the website, so by all means, if you want to have a look at everything that I've mentioned here, as well as all of the various different questions, take yourself to the website, and if there's anything that either I haven't covered or you feel unconfident about, just please give me a call, drop me an email, and I'll do everything I possibly can to help you. Thank you.